Ruchim Habayim, welcome friends. Once again, I'm studying from the writings of the Baal Hasulam, and I'm in a section called Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah. And I enjoy doing these studies and recording them so that I can actually look back later and see how much I've learned and grown, and even go back to review my studies. And the sages say that we should review our studies 101 times. And so this helps us eternalize what we're learning, and it's more than just knowledge, it is tikkun. So I'm just going to read from item 23 in a section called 5 Bechinot in the Masach. And I'm just going to read and explain what I've learned. This is also help from a good friend of mine who has helped me and directed me in studies that will help me improve and understand the deeper levels of Kabbalah. And so in verse 23 it says, Yet we must still find out why it is that when the Kli of Malchut-Behina Dalet-is is missing from the Masach, it lacks the light of Keter. And when the Kli of Tifferet is missing, it lacks the light of Hochma, etc. It seems though it should have been the opposite, that when the Kli of Malchut-Behina Dalet is absent in the Masach, only the light of Malchut would be missing in the level, and it would have four lights, the four lights Keter, Hochma, Bina, and Tifferet, and also in the absence of two Kelim, Behina Gimel and Behina Dalet, it would lack the lights of Tifferet and Malchut, and the level would have the three lights Keter, Hochma, Bina. So continuing on, it says in item 24, the answer is that there is always an inverse relation between lights and vessels. In the Kelim, the higher ones grow first in the Partzuf, first Keter, and then Kli of Hochma, etc. And the Kli of Malchut grows last. This is why we name the Kelim, the vessels, by the order of Keter, Hochma, Bina, Tifferet, and Malchut, from above downward. This is the nature of their growth. So I have a little diagram here, and you could say this is Keter, Hochma, Bina, Tifferet, and Malchut. And just continuing reading on a little bit more here, it says, it is to the contrary with the lights. In the lights, the lower lights are the first to enter the Partzuf. First enters Nefesh, which is the light of Malchut, then Ruach, which is the light of Zerampin, etc. And the light of Yechida is the last to enter. This is why we name the lights by the order of Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, from below upward, as this is the order by which they enter from below upward. So here we have the screen Keter, Hochma, Bina, Tifferet, Malchut, and what it's saying is the lights from below upward, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. And so going on further to explain this, you see, well, first we have that the Nefesh extends all the way to Yechida, the lowest to the highest. Then you got the Ruach to Chaya, and then the Neshama to basically Bina, and Chaya to Tifferet, and Yechida to Malchut, the last to enter, as it says. below upward, and this is the order by which they enter from below upward. The light of Yechida is the last to enter. Yechida is the last to enter. And so, further explaining, it says, thus, when only one Kli has grown in the Partzuf, which is necessarily the highest Kli, Keter, the light of Yechida related to the Kli, to that Kli does not enter the Partzuf, but only the lowest light, the light of Nefesh. So it says, thus the light of Nefesh clothes Keter. So going back, we see that the Nefesh rises, the light clothes Keter. This is what it's saying here. And so when it says, when the two Kelim grow in the Partzuf, which are the highest, the two Keter and Hochma, the light of Ruach enters it as well. At this time, the light of Nefesh descends from the Kli of Keter to the Kli of Hochma, and the light of Ruach clothes the Kli of Keter. So I have another diagram here that's mapped out to help us understand this. You could look at it this way, as Keter and the Hochma being filled, the vessel becoming more complete. This is what it was referring to. But we'll show you this way, that we have that Nefesh. So it says here, when the two Kelim grow in the Partzuf, so we have Keter and Hochma, the light of Ruach enters. And at that time, the Nefesh descends from the Kli of Keter. So we have Nefesh here in the Kli of Keter, descends to the Kli of Hochma, and the light of Ruach enters in. So first Nefesh, and then Ruach want to enter into Keter. So Nefesh descends to Hochma. So then we see that Ruach clothes the Kli of Keter. Then it says here, similarly, when a third Kli grows in the Partzuf of the Kli of Bina, the light of Neshama enters into it. So we see here, now we have Neshama entering in. The Neshama entering into the Kli. So it says the third Kli grows in the Partzuf of the Kli of Bina, the light of Neshama enters in it. At that time, the light of Nefesh descends from the Kli of Hochma to the Kli of Bina. So we see here the Nefesh in the Kli of Hochma descends to the Kli of Bina. And Ruach, so it says here, at that time Nefesh descends from the Kli of Hochma to the Kli of Bina, the light of Ruach to the Kli of Hochma, as we see here. Ruach descends to Hochma, and the light of Neshama now clothes the Kli of Keter. This is what it says. And the light of Neshama clothes the Kli of Keter. And when a fourth Kli grows in the Partzuf, the Kli of Tifferet, the light of Chaya enters the Partzuf. So now we see Chaya entering into the Partzuf. And it says here, the Kli of Tifferet, the light of Chaya enters the Partzuf. The light of the Nefesh descends from the Kli of Bina to the Kli of Tifferet. And so the light of Nefesh from the Kli of Bina descends to the Kli of Tifferet. And the light of Ruach to the Kli of Bina. And the light of Neshama to the Kli of Hochma. And the light of Chaya to the Kli of Keter. I have to be very careful explaining this because it can get very confusing. And so, going on, and when the fifth Kli grows in the Partzuf, the Kli of Malchut, the light of Yechida enters it. So then we see the fifth Kli grows in the Partzuf, the Kli of Malchut, the light of Yechida enters in. And at that time, the lights enter the respective Kelim. The light of Nefesh descends from the Kli of Tifferet into the Kli of Malchut. So the light of Nefesh in Tifferet descends to Malchut. The light of Ruach descends into Tifferet. The light of Neshama from Bina, or Hochma, descends into Bina. And the light of Chaya descends into Hochma, and Yechida into Yechida. So it says here, when the fifth grows in the Partzuf, the Kli of Malchut, the light of Yechida enters it. At that time, all the lights enter the respective Kelim. The light of Nefesh descends from the Kli of Tifferet to the Kli of Malchut. The light of Ruach to the Kli of Tifferet. The light of Neshama to the Kli of Bina. The light of Chaya to the Kli of Hochma. And the light of Yechida to the Kli of Keter. And so for me, just reading this, it can be very hard to understand, to see what's really going on. And so these diagrams really help me understand the flow, the movement of the lights in the vessel, from the refinement to the coarseness. And so these are just little steps for basically me to remember, understand, internalize more, to study over and over, and have a source to go back to, my own video to look over and review.